Hi guys, my name's Alyssa and welcome back to my channel. This is Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini. Mars is a fire planet. Planet of passion and desire and anger and sex and all that stuff. And Gemini is an air sign. And when fire and air get together, it becomes a massive explosion. When fire and Gemini gets together, it becomes a fiery explosion that might go off in different ways that you can't expect. Because if a Gemini's a twins, sometimes they're evil, sometimes they're good. Sometimes Gemini's crazy, sometimes it's not. But always, Gemini is bored. So, Gemini needs constant movement in order to stay afloat. Wherever Gemini is, you have to account for the fact that it doesn't want that area to be boring. So Mars is already not boring, but with Gemini, it's like Mars is going to be constantly awoken. If Mars is unstimulated, if there's nothing going on, the Mars and Gemini person can actually have a very physical reaction to that because it can really upset them to just be so stagnant in this drama department. I'm not saying Mars is the planet of drama, but it kind of is. Mars and Gemini needs to constantly ruffle feathers and get things going. They don't want to stay in one place for too long, so they'll always be doing something. Oftentimes, Gemini is very creative, and it's a speaker, it's communication. It wants to creatively influence things, and so you will find Mars and Gemini people to be very creative. And if they have nothing creative to do, to attend to, they will just be exhausted, tired and sleepy and, lethargic. But if there's something to do, they will just get things done because they have this passion and this energy behind it. So they will push their, whatever it is, their anger, their joy, their love, whatever, and they will push it on their projects and they will just go for it because they have the energy to do so when there's stuff on their plate. They have this issue, it's called word vomit. So when they're really happy, you will know about it and they're going to tell you about it, and it's going to be like all over their Facebook page and all over your voicemail and in your face, and they're going to be like, I'm just so happy, I just want you to know. And when they're angry, they just spew shit out of their mouths like crazy people. Like word vomit, because of the fact that it is communication, and their anger, they're not going to hold it in. They don't have a place for it. Gemini is not a deep sign. It's pretty shallow because it's your mouth. It just wants to say it out loud. So it doesn't have the ability to hide anger like some of the other Mars placements does. So it will just, what am I going to do with this anger? Here it is. It's at my dog. It's at my kids, it's at my husband or my wife or my coworker. Whoever is there in front of them, there will be anger at them, even if it's not their fault. Words can become their weapon. Their word is their sword. So they aren't going to try to beat you up. They are going to belittle you and make you feel stupid and yell at you to the best of their ability so that you cower and leave them alone and choose not to be mean to them anymore. Or if it's not your fault and you happen to be in their way, they'll feel good that it was off their chest. Now, as far as sex goes, because Gemini is all over the place and it's shallow, you can find yourself able to have sex with anybody. You don't have to be emotionally attached, unless maybe your Venus is in Scorpio or Cancer or something. You can really definitely separate yourself from the emotion in sex with certain people. And at the exact same time, little Gemini over here throwing us loops, you can take your sex drive and you can forget about it for a minute, and you can actually be in love, like deeply in love with people you don't have sex with. That you could actually go in relationships and not have sex with somebody. Sex and love are not the same thing, and very rarely are they interconnected unless something else in your chart is happening. So, as far as your Mars and Gemini goes, Mars is kind of getting scattered and is able to separate the two things. Love is no longer a part of sex to you. It's split up. You can do one without the other, and oftentimes you do. I do know somebody with their Mars in Gemini who was able to go around and couch hop for a couple years of their life. Just live on the edge and couch hop. But in order to do that, they would just have sex with whoever they were living with. No big deal. No questions asked. Didn't even feel crappy about that. And then got into a relationship shortly after where that person they were with had a very low sex drive, and they were perfectly okay and perfectly attached to that person, and it didn't matter. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I used to get all this sex and now I don't. It was, I got all this sex and now I don't. Mars and Gemini people also have a lot of nervous energy. I just imagine that you have Mars, and if it's in Gemini, if any planet's in Gemini, that planet is going to be sliced up like an onion, just slicing it down, and all these little pieces are going to fall, and they're all going to be in Gemini. They're all still Mars, they're just all laid out, and they are all going to react in different ways, and they're all separate. It's not mushed up, but because they have all these little pieces of their Mars energy, they can get nervous, anxious. Things can just kind of make them shake a little bit, because that's a lot of different tiny bits of energy kind of poking them like pins, and makes them nervous. They need to unleash their energy at something. And so change is a really good way to do it, whether it's bad or good. If it's bad change, they can just yell at it. If it's good change, they can just joyfully attack it. But if it's a stagnant life they're living, they will not be okay. They will just explode and get exhausted and lethargic and feel shitty. So they need it, and they will create it out of nothing. Gemini is really good at lying. They can make anybody believe their drama, that it's real, that this is true, and they can spin it at you in a different way. Their story may not always add up, because as I said, it's all chopped up Mars and Gemini. Sometimes they're going to tell you one story, and sometimes they're going to tell you a different story. Whatever it is to them, that's not a big deal. That's not an issue. They just want you to get excited with them. And if you find out later that they lied to you about a story, they're not going to really understand when that's a big deal to you, because they just wanted excitement for that moment, and you were there and they were excited with you. That is your Mars and Gemini. Okay, bye.